All right, I think it's time to go. All right, well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Barbie Holland, Sales Consultant with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. It is my very pleasure to welcome you to today's COVID-19 webinar with Anne-Marie Flynn from Empowered Workplace Wellness Consulting. Today, Anne-Marie will be speaking about shifting problems to outcomes. There has been so much change these last few months, and this morning we are going to use that change to our advantage. There's never been a better time for creativity and innovation. Some housekeeping. If you have some questions during the presentation, please feel free to type it in the Q&A box. If you are commenting in the chat box, please address your comments to the panelists and all attendees. That's in the drop-down. You can do this so everyone can see your post, as it may be of interest to all. There's also an option to address your messages to all panelists, which only I and the presenter will be able to see if you choose to do that. I'd like to now introduce our presenter. Anne-Marie Flynn, President and Founder of Empowered Workplace Wellness Consulting. As a professional business performance consultant, Anne-Marie is committed to offering her clients and their teams practical and innovative tools that will foster positive behavioral changes that lead to optimal performance. A certified workplace wellness master ambassador, a performance development wellness expert, and an international athlete, Anne-Marie brings an athlete's mindset to the culture of organizations for optimal performance excellence. By merging evidence-based methodologies from the field of wellness with best practices from the field of learning and development, Anne-Marie introduces creative solutions to address engagement, behavior change, human performance, and building healthier, happier, more innovative organizations. Her outgoing demeanor and entertaining storytelling has inspired individuals and organizations across North America. Anne-Marie finds her personal satisfaction from helping others pursue their passions and achieve their goals through a client-first approach. Wow, this is going to be exciting. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for joining us today, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Barbie, and thank you, Kayla, as well, for helping me organize this. And I'm really pleased to virtually meet everybody. So here we are. We're in the first week of reopening, and even though I can't see you, how is everyone feeling? I just want to, just a sec now. I think that there we go. If this is what you may be feeling, I have to say I've been feeling the same way too. And this feeling is certainly normal. It's a very normal reaction to the abnormal world that we're living in right now. And I have to say that nothing sparks drama in an organization and within an individual quite like change, especially this kind of change. You're all undergoing unprecedented change in this new era we are living in. And you've all been challenged with riding the wave of this new reality. And this can certainly bring up a lot of discomfort, but maybe even fear and anxiety. I did some research for this talk, and what I found was the #1 mood experience, and I like to call it a mood experience versus a disorder, in Canada right now is anxiety. Like, go figure. And this fear-based mindset, fight, flight, freeze, and even appease, is alive and well. And when this mindset hits the workplace, it can create conflict, resistance, disagreements, or what I call drama. Interestingly, before the pandemic, managers would spend up to 40% of their time managing drama. So just imagine, with anxiety, everybody going back to work, what the numbers look like right now. And when there is drama, it can be really difficult to create sustainable change. What's alarming is that 80% of all change efforts fail to produce their intended results. 80%. Now more than ever in our lifetime, is it more important for businesses, no matter what size, to create a drama-reduced environment. Change, collaboration, trust, and resilience is imperative to bounce forward in this new era. There is a way to shift the mindset from anxiety and fear-based to results and outcome-based. Or sorry, if there was a way to shift mindset from anxiety and fear-based and results and outcome-based, would you do it? Now, this isn't the first time that the world and companies have undergone significant change. In fact, some of the most successful businesses have been built and or thrived during depressions, recessions, 9/11, and the Wall Street meltdown, all because of a creative mindset and being responsive versus reactive. Think GE, Disney, Procter & Gamble, and Microsoft, just to name a few. And these companies focused on outcomes versus problems. They took a panoramic view of the situation to see opportunities versus a fear-based, problem-oriented outlook to the rapid changes that the world was undergoing. And what about today in today's world? What businesses are thriving? No big surprise here. Peloton, Root Touch-Up. I put that one in there this morning because as I was spraying my hair with it, it's like, I got to think that this has got great success right now. The P&Gs and the Microsofts of the world know, and what these companies know, is that consumers still need things. They continue to act as though the public is in need of their business, their products, and or their services. And closer to home, here's some examples of businesses bouncing forward and seeing that consumers still are in need of things. Distilleries selling hand sanitizers and print companies making face shields. What do all of these companies have in common? They've created and innovated even during the most challenging of times. So what I'm here to talk about this morning is about a model that will champion you, champion your business, and champion your people to shift mindset from fear and problems to outcomes and solutions, so you too can continue to bounce forward. This model is called the 3 vital questions, or 3VQ to keep it simple. And this model was created by David Emerald, who was also the author of The Power of TED and 3 Vital Questions. I highly recommend anybody getting these 2 books. He recently opened up the 3VQ model for others to facilitate to organizations around the world. And I've been really fortunate enough to be selected as one of only 80 facilitators worldwide to bring this 3VQ model to organizations. About 20 years ago, David worked as a consultant, and he was attending a workshop on culture and how we shape culture. And one of the founding members of that workshop shared a study on success rates of change efforts in organizations. And what he found was that somewhere in the order of 80% of all change efforts fail to produce their intended results, which is what I spoke to earlier. So David really got curious and started asking the question, what is it that contributes to this poor track record? And after doing some research, he came across a study which cited some observations that any organization, no matter what size, has 3 dimensions of work associated with it. First, there's the A dimension, which is the inner circle. This is where the work, this is the work that people are doing day in and day out to serve customers and clients. And to organize that work, and the organization has to have what they call the B dimension, which is the realm of management. It's the design and implementation by which the work in the A dimension gets done. So think policies, procedures, etc. Then there's the outer circle, the C dimension. And this dimension is thinking about how we think. This is the dimension that often gets overlooked when creating change. It's here where we are thinking about how we interact and thinking about how we take action. It's the mental models and mindset that we use either consciously and or unconsciously. It's the assumptions and beliefs that inform how we think and interact with one another. And it's this dimension that impacts how the B dimension, the management, the realm of management, and the A dimension, how we work, it's how that impacts those dimensions that can make a productive or unproductive organization. And this is where change leadership thrives. And when this dimension is engaged, long-term sustainable growth within an individual and within an organization is created. The 3 vital questions, 3VQ, that I'm here to talk to you about today is focused on that C dimension. It focuses on how we think within organizations and internally as individuals. It focuses on how we interact within organizations and internally as individuals. And it focuses on how we take action and bounce forward within an organization and as individuals. We like to call this the soft stuff. That's the stuff that isn't always visible, yet if you pause long enough, it can be very apparent in the energy that shows up within an individual and within an organization. Some people call it unconscious bias. And it's the soft stuff that's often harder to shift than the hard stuff. It's the thinking, the mindset, how we relate to others, and how we take action that will have a direct impact on how businesses will respond, recover, and rebuild during this time of immense change. If there is fear and resistance to change within the culture of a business and or within an individual, it can be so much harder and take so much longer to create and innovate. And what I'm hearing from many organizations and individuals is that now is more important than ever to have an agile, creative, productive team and mindset so it can survive and thrive in this world. And I'm also hearing how important it is to eliminate assumptions and challenge long-held beliefs and biases, whether it's conscious or unconscious, so we can champion ourselves and others to bounce forward. So without further ado, let's go through these 3 vital questions. So the first question that comes up is, first of all, where are you putting your focus? Are you focused on problems or are you focused on outcomes? Which leads you to the second question, how are you relating? How are you relating to others? How are you relating to your experience? And how are you relating to yourself? Are you producing or perpetuating drama or championing others and yourself to be more resourceful, more resilient, and more innovative? And what actions are you taking? Are you reacting to problems of the moment, or are you taking creative action in service of creating outcomes? So let's dive into the first of the 3 vital questions, and this is where I'm going to spend the majority of this time talking to you today. The first question, as I said, is where are you putting your focus? What you focus on can be called an orientation, or I like to call a mindset. And this works like a compass. It's one that's inside you and within a culture of an organization. And it's this orientation or mindset that has a lot to do with the direction you and or your organization takes in life. And it's in this orientation or mindset that innovation and creativity can occur, or where problems and drama can occur. And there's a sequence of events that happen in both orientations or both mindsets that look very similar in flow, yet produce extremely different results. There is a mental model that I use to describe these 2 mindsets, the problem mindset or the outcome mindset. And whichever model we choose to be in is how we're going to see the world. And let me show you why. So we use the acronym FISBE to describe this mental model. And FISBE stands for, the first letter is focus. What we focus on has a great deal to do with what shows up in our lives. The IS stands for inner state. And whatever we focus on engages an emotional inner state, which can be fear, anxiety, excitement, or passion, or any other emotion that you can think of. And that emotional inner state then drives our behavior in the outer world. Will I behave as a victim, or try to rescue or persecute someone? Or will I create from my inner state, coach and challenge the status quo? What's interesting about this model is how powerfully it shows how two different people, or sometimes and very often the same person, can see the exact same situation, and their mindset, their FISBE model, may result in two very different experiences. One person could see this picture as a problem where there's all these waves and it looks precarious, and another person can see this as the most enjoyable experience ever. So again, one person could see problems and another person could see outcomes. So to help with understanding these two mindsets, let me give you a personal example of how I experienced both mindsets and how I shifted from problem-based to outcome-based mindset. Many moons ago, I was a member of the Naval Reserves, and the job I was doing at the time was really mundane and really unfulfilling. So one day I saw a posting for a course to become a military scuba diver. And it would take me to Victoria, BC, and I would be able to get away from the job I was doing and fulfill my desire of adventure and travel. And I also found out that if I signed up and completed this really intense 8-week course, I would become Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. So now I had a focus. I wanted to be Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. And that focus will drive my inner state, excited, driven, pumped. And that inner state will be the behavior that I will bring into the world, powerful, goal-oriented, kind of like Wonder Woman. Now, to throw a wrench into this whole story is that I'm extremely claustrophobic, and I'm not a big fan of the water. So now I have two choices of where I'm going to put my focus. I could put my focus on the problem, which is feeling claustrophobic and not really liking the water, or I could focus on the outcome to become Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. So let's take a look at both scenarios and see how each one would play out. The scenario in the problem mindset is, I want to sign up for this military scuba diving course, but, and the key word here is but, the problem was that I had past negative experiences of being in small places and two lovely older brothers who always sang the theme of Jaws whenever I touched a body of water. And that was playing in my head over and over and over again. And this is resulting in a feeling of anxiety that I'll get into the water and all those negative emotions will show up. And that feeling of fear is racing through my mind. And this anxiety is causing a fight, flight, or freeze reaction. And the best thing for me to do in this situation is just not sign up, go back to my boring, unfulfilling job, play small, and stay safe. What's here to notice is that my reaction to not sign up for the diving course was not based on the problem. It was based on everything I said after the word but. It was an anxiety-based feeling that I had. The decision was based on, with this problem mindset, was based on the anxiety that I felt. And this is an important distinction because this is not a problem-solving mindset. It's actually a problem-reacting mindset. Now, I got to think that this mindset might resonate with some of you, whether you're claustrophobic, not a big fan of the water, or whatever it is that the fear-based mindset is bringing up for you. And I have to say, it tends to be our default as human beings. We are hardwired to feel safe and secure. And the brain doesn't do a really good job of distinguishing the difference between real danger and perceived danger, AKA fear. So when it perceives danger, it naturally goes into an anxiety-based mode: fight, flight, freeze, or appease. Okay, so let's take a look at the outcome mindset and see what the script would look like for my story. In the outcome-based mindset, I envision an outcome. The outcome I envision is that I'll become Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. I can see myself coming home to a hero's welcome with a distinguished military scuba diver's badge proudly displayed on my uniform. And what's here to care about is that I can follow my passion of travel and adventure. I paint the picture that I'm swimming with the dolphins and searching through sunken ships. And in order to get to this desired outcome, I'm going to go through 8 grueling weeks of 300 push-ups, running 10 kilometers, swimming 2 kilometers per day, among other intense lessons like wearing 10-pound lead boots for the first 2 weeks of the course and jumping from 40 feet off a destroyer into the ocean. And if I can just chunk up this course into little bite-sized pieces, little baby steps, I am able to see little mini successes along the way, which will help me stay on track, course correct when there's setbacks, and there were many, and fear less when fear does come calling. And this will produce a bounce forward mindset that will get me closer and closer to my desired outcome of becoming Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. So I know I can't see you and I can't hear what you're thinking, but I'm just going to ask the question, what feels different in this mindset versus the last one? And just think about that and digest that as I continue to talk. There are 3 key distinctions or differences between the problem mindset that I talked about and the outcome mindset that I talked about. These 2 mindsets produce very different environments or air in the room, if you will. We use the acronym AIR to understand the distinction between these 2 mindsets. And AIR stands for attention, intention, and results. So let's look at where we place our attention. So in the problem mindset, the attention goes to what we don't want. It focuses on everything we say after the words yes, but, i.e., I want to become Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver, but I'm claustrophobic and I really don't like the water. It's fear focused. And in the outcome mindset, the attention goes to what we do want. I'm claustrophobic, I'm really not a big fan of the water, and I'm going to become Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. This focuses on everything we say after we say yes and. Feel the difference? Now let's move on to intention. In the problem mindset, our intention is to get rid of or get away from anxiety that we feel about the problem. We want to take it out of being a reality for us. I'm not going to sign up for the scuba divers course, so I don't have to feel any of the anxiety of all the what ifs that's showing up for me when I'm thinking about it. And in the outcome mindset, our intention is to move toward what we do want, to bring that into being. I have every intention of becoming Atlantic Canada's very first female military scuba diver. You can only imagine that these 2 mindsets and where we put our attention leads to 2 very different results. So let's talk about the different patterns of those results. So the pattern of results in each orientation looks something like this. In the problem mindset, a problem occurs, anxiety goes up. So to get rid of the feeling you have, you react until the feeling of anxiety goes away. The problem is not solved, it's merely reacted to. And if the problem or what's perceived as a problem isn't addressed, then it's going to show up again and again and again, kind of like a roller coaster. The results lead only to short-term changes. Think of yo-yo dieting as an example. And in the outcome mindset, an outcome is focused on. If you truly care about it, you're passionate about it, and your passion intensifies, all those little baby steps, like mini successes, will be heightened. And setbacks will occur, trust me, and we all know that setbacks do occur. And we are going to see those setbacks as feedback versus failure, which will help with course correcting. And over time, the trend will bring you towards the outcome you've set your mind to. The results here leads to new, better breakthrough, and more importantly, sustainable change. The mark of a successful organization is not whether it has problems. We're all going to be faced with something. It's whether it has the same problems as it did a year ago. And when a crisis hits, we're forced to confront the truth about how our systems work or how they don't work. And the places where things could be done better or more efficiently become glaringly obvious. All of a sudden, opportunities for innovation are staring at us in the face. It all comes down to where will we put our focus? How will we relate to that situation? And what actions will we take? Now, in the full course that I facilitate, there would be much more time to dig deeper into all of the 3 vital questions. But because time is limited, I'm just going to briefly go through the other 2 vital questions. So the second question is, how are you relating? This is the way you're seeing yourself, your life experience, which will determine how you relate to yourself and to the world around you. And again, I call this, some people may call it unconscious bias. And it's this mindset, whether it's problem mindset or outcome mindset, it's this mindset that will define your reality. Now, I talked about the problem mindset. We're now going to call this the victim mindset. In this, we feel victimized by the problems we're reacting to, i.e., we feel victim to everything that comes after the words, yes, but. We feel that something is a threat to us, whether it's real or perceived. The outcome mindset, we're now going to call the creator mindset. It's about focusing forward, taking baby steps, small mini goals to get there to achieve a certain outcome. And it's in this model that we are choosing our responses to others and our experiences. In this part of the course, we focus a lot on relationships that thrive in the victim mindset. And we call that another acronym called the DDT, or the dreaded drama triangle, that I'll talk to you a little bit about. And every relationship that thrives in the creator mindset, we're now going to call, is called TED, the empowerment dynamic. And this is where things get really juicy. This is when people start to witness and a shift in mindset and create powerful aha moments for themselves and their organizations. So let's talk a little bit about both models, the DDT, the dreaded drama triangle, and TED, the empowerment dynamic model. So for the dreaded drama triangle, there's 3 characters. The central character in this model is the victim, who feels powerless and helpless. And in order for the victim to be a victim, one must have a persecutor, which can be a person, place, or thing, or a situation, think COVID. And very often that person has its own, and very often that person is their own inner critic. And the third character in this triangle is the rescuer, the pain reliever, the fixer. Again, this can be a person, place, thing, and or a situation. Now, we would spend a ton of time in the course to dig deeper into this DDT to identify and bring awareness around when the DDT shows up in our lives. And it's shown up in our lives, whether we realize it or not. There are normally huge aha moments in this part of the work where people, teams, and organizations discover how they are relating to themselves and how they're relating to others. And as I mentioned, the opposite of the DDT is the empowerment dynamic. And again, there's 3 characters. So the creator role is the central role in this dynamic and is the antidote for the victim. And they operate with an outcome-focused and passion-powered mindset. And the opposite of the persecutor is the role of challenger. who champions growth and is often a truth teller and a cheerleader. And the opposite of the rescuer is the role of coach, who assists the creator in creating outcomes and making choices. Just like when looking at my military scuba diving story, I had the choice of which dynamic I wanted to be in. Do I want to be a victim to my fears, or do I want to create from what's possible with this course? Now, something to note, this is not about shifting your mindset from victim to creator once and only once. It's very natural to toggle back and forth. That's totally normal. The key here is to simply notice when it happens and build your arsenal of ways to shift over and bounce forward faster to the creator mode. Which brings me to the third and final vital question. What actions are you taking? So with the economy creating strategies for opening up again, there are ways on how to move forward, and there are ways on how to resist and try to stay the same. If you or your organization is problem-focused, anxiety-based, and reactive in the victim mindset, then actions could be fear-based and reactive in nature, which will result in that roller coaster effect. However, if you and your organization are ready to embrace the realities of the new era of change from an outcome-focused, passion-powered, and creative mindset, then you will create a framework for creating outcomes and planning for action with sustainable change. And this is going to be crucial for shifting your organization to what is now this new era of change. So questions to ask yourself in this third component is, what do you want? What do you have? And what's next? These questions may be simple, and answering and implementing them may not necessarily be easy. When you state your desired outcome, what you want, and tell the truth about where you really are, what you have, these 2 points create a polarizing effect, which creates what's called a dynamic tension. And it's from here that you simply notice this tension and ask the question, what's next to move forward? This is all about elasticity. So what's next? What's next is a 5-action planning process. And this is where, when doing this course, I champion you, I champion your organization to imagine if we could reduce anxiety in the workplace and shift fear to outcome thinking. If managers could spend less time managing drama and more time creating positive performance and productive environments. And if change effort in the workplace was sustainable and not have an 80% failure rate. It all comes down to mindset. So the 5-action planning process would be: create your outcome, assess your current reality, recognize what supports your outcome, recognize what inhibits your outcome, and identify baby steps. So in summary, what I want to ask you is, where are you putting your focus? Are you focused on problems? Are you focused on outcomes? And how do you know? How are you relating? How are you relating to others? Your experience, and how are you relating to yourself? Are you producing or perpetuating drama? Or are you empowering yourself and others to be more resourceful, more resilient, and more innovative? And what actions are you taking? Oops, sorry, I don't know what just happened there. I think I went to, there we go. And what actions are you taking? Are you reacting to the problems of the moment, or taking creative action in service of outcomes? One thing has to be made clear: not being agile or ready for anything can be a huge competitive disadvantage. And we must learn to move quickly, and in understanding the new experience consumer mindset, we will continue to have customers. In time, a new normal is going to emerge, and we will all eventually evolve and adapt to it. How will we hold ourselves accountable for moving forward differently? We have all been on webinars and like this one and conferences and Zoom calls where we vow to do things differently. And 2 weeks later, we're back to doing the same thing we used to do, and drama is on the uptick. How productive is that? And how is that working for you? It's really going to come down to who is going to do it faster. Will it be you or will it be your competition? How will you champion yourself, champion your organization, and champion others? I'm here to champion you. And as Viktor Frankl said, everything can be taken away from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So in close, I'd just like to thank you very much, and also to let you know I'm also undergoing and pivoting in this beautiful era that we're going through, and going through name changes and branding. So stay tuned for what that looks like. So thank you so much, and I hope that you enjoyed this talk.
Wow. Well, enjoyed. I thought it was great. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. So much information, and it looks like from your slides you were saying in a larger presentation and more detailed. So again, your contact information is available, and anyone can review this recording at a later date. We're getting comments, awesome information, so people are certainly loving it. I have a couple of questions, and again, I remind all the attendees to put your questions in the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll address Anne-Marie. You have her now for about the next 10 minutes, so take advantage. We have a question. How can we cultivate a change culture while working remotely?
Yeah, and this is a new reality. And so it really comes down to, again, how are we going to create in this new reality? And it really comes down to how are we going to be able to connect with the people that are in our circle of this organization. It really, again, comes down to what is the outcome that we're looking for? And if we're looking for further connection, then what are some of the tools that we can use to create a more vibrant culture that is remote? And it really comes down to, again, is it a problem or is it an opportunity? And I don't have the answer for, what that's going to look like for each organization, only to say that, again, is this a problem, or are there outcomes and opportunities that can be created from this?
Right. And I'm curious about the scuba diving. What was the outcome?
Oh, yes. So I wanted to keep that. So I have to say that when I do my keynotes, and I have this as my keynote talk, I say at the end, I failed this course a lot. I failed and I failed and I failed, and yet I succeeded. So it really comes down to resilience and bouncing. And I like to say bounce forward versus bouncing back.
Right. Thank you. That's okay. That's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How long does change take, and what are some of the signs of someone who isn't willing? So it's not overnight. It's not, we work all our lives in education, and then we get into a job place, and maybe we take some habits, good or bad, to the next place. Mm-hmm. So maybe you land someplace and there's change. Yeah, what are some of the signs of someone who isn't willing to change?
Yeah, well, first of all, listening to the words and even just feeling the energy in the room are the first signs. Using your intuition. When you hear a lot of yes, but in the conversation, that is typically sign number one of how there is resistance showing up, and the inner critic inside, this saboteur or whatever we want to call it, is showing up as fear. So some things to think about is some thoughts. Is life happening to me? Am I feeling powerless? My dream is impossible. Thinking about poor me. These are some of the words or the mindset that is showing that there's going to be resistance. So again, it's how do we shift that victim mindset to creator mindset? And I'm not saying it's an easy shift. Nothing sustainable is a one and gone type of thing. This is something that does take time to shift from one side to the other.
I think I remember it takes 3 weeks to create a habit. Is that right? I think that might be it.
It takes 3 weeks to it takes 3 weeks to change a habit if done sustainably. Yeah.
Yes, there you
And
go. So that's
consistently.
3 weeks. Yeah. Okay, how do we move past the fear and move forward? Because your fear of water, how do we move past maybe fear of going out without a mask, or fear of going to a restaurant? I'm talking in these times of COVID, or maybe doing everything right at your workplace and having your team come back knowing that you're doing all of the precautions that our public health has advised our workplace, but yet still someone might have that fear. But how do we get past that?
So are you saying that the person that's even doing everything right still has the fear, or is it that there's still things that are happening outside of their control that is creating the fear?
Yeah, let's say if an organization, some of our members on the call today, they've done everything right, and maybe let's say their employees still have a little bit of fear of coming back to a different workplace not post-COVID, but after our first wave of COVID.
Yeah. This is very real. And here's one thing that I'm going to promise you is that I promise that you can't change somebody else until they're ready. So as much as we want to, the best thing that we can do is to be an example of what it is that we want to see in this world. And that is by expressing positivity, expressing a positive energy, thinking about yes and, fearing less versus being fearless, and really all about continuing to sort of nudge the people within your workplace around positive outcomes. And like I said, usually sometimes it's like turning a destroyer in a bathtub. And it does take time. However, it's all about culture shift. And that really starts from the top. And it's like, what are the thought processes that we're going to bring into the culture and into the energy of this organization that will help reduce fear of the people that are working for us? And again, this is not an overnight solution, and it depends on how we're going to move forward with, being a coach, a creator, and a challenger to help that organization bring positivity to its workplace.
Right. All right, just to follow up, and I do want to just read this question from one of our participants. I think you've mostly answered it, but I'll read it. Tips to remain positive in the creator mindset if you're working along victim mindsets.
Right. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. And right. So again, it's very difficult to change someone's mindset. And so I would say, don't try. Because it's really about how are you going to ensure that you can continue to stay positive. And this is where a drama-induced environment can be encouraged or discouraged. So if you are noticing that is happening, that there is drama in the workplace, this is the perfect tool and perfect kind of course to have within the organization. So the best thing to do is to continue to stay true to your values, continue to stay true to what is important to you, and also make the suggestion, maybe we need to have a culture shift so we can start bringing positive energy into this workplace. I know someone that could probably help you with that.
Yeah. All right. So another question, and they're all along the same family, if you will, same origin of questions, but some of my colleagues are using the pandemic as an excuse to avoid change, what we're experiencing now. What are some ways that I can show the importance of culture change?
First thing that comes to mind is live it. Really, it's like, the whole idea about walking the walk, talking the talk, whatever that saying is. It's all about, are you actually embodying this, or are you just talking about it? And I can tell you through, I always say there's a sixth sense in this world that we don't necessarily tap into, and that's intuition. And it doesn't matter what we say, is that if we're giving off a different energy in an environment, that's what's going to show up in the environment and in the culture. So we might say one thing, if we're not actually embodying it, and if we're not actually believing it, it's not going to show up in the culture. So I always say that everything starts from the top down with this type of thing, is that we need to get buy-in from all levels of the organization, including leadership, to ensure that this culture change around positivity and outcome-based starts there, and then basically spans out to the rest of the organization. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think you did perfectly, and I agree 100%. And I think it's really important also that sometimes we have to ask ourselves, well, what choice do I have? You know, and the choice is, I would go choice positive. What choice do I have? It's change. Let's move with it and roll with it. And then change is only today's news. 3 months from now or a year from now, we'll be looking back at this, and it'll be the new normal and how we're working and how we're operating and what we're doing and how we're living.
Right. I'm avoiding to say the word pivot because it seems to be overused, but it is true. And it really is going to come down to choice. And this is what I said earlier in the conversation. It's, you know, we have a choice in terms of how we're going to move forward. And we have a choice in terms of are we going to sit with problems, or are we going to start creating with outcomes? And it really does come down to choice. And it comes down to feedback versus failure. You know, and it also comes down to bias and unconscious bias. And it really, you know, it's what is the culture that we have within ourselves, and what is the culture that we have within our organization, and pulling that apart and teasing that apart. There's some huge aha moments that people are discovering that they didn't even realize is showing up for them.
I'm going to speak of something that I mentioned last week in a conversation. If you remember, a few years ago, the city was putting in roundabouts in our beautiful city of Halifax, right? And people were nervous, scared, and how do I drive? I've never driven. And now what do we think? We just go around roundabouts, and that is what we do. We don't even think about it. And so that change came in. We couldn't really do anything about it. Adapt and drive around the roundabouts.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things I talk about is evolution, and we don't necessarily see evolution until we reflect back. So one of the things I talk about is, like, look at human beings, for instance, you know, what we looked like 10,000 years ago and what we look like today. You know, we evolve, or even as we evolve as adults, from baby to adulthood, we evolve, and we don't necessarily see the changes until we reflect back. So it's like, how do we embrace the evolution versus be fearful of it? Things are going to change no matter what. It's how we're going to choose to move forward with change.
Wonderful. All right, so we are almost out of time. I want to just go back to your very first statement. The number one mood experience is anxiety. So stay true to yourself, folks. Everybody that's on the call, keep positive, hang in there. We will get through this. As everyone says, we will get through this together. The book, 3 Vital Questions, 3VQ, sounds great. I might go and pick it up myself. Problem mindset, get rid of the word but. That's not really a great word anyway. We should just take it out of take it out of yes and. All right, so we want to thank you, Anne-Marie, for helping us shift our mindset from problems to outcomes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We had a great group on the webinar today. As you obviously know, if you're following the Chamber, we are hosting more webinars every week with experts in managing people to perform, the future of air travel, money mindset, lots more. So hop online, head over to halifaxchamber.com, events for a full lineup, and get registered, and share this with your team. Bring your team along and have them join you. This webinar was recorded and will be available to all the attendees shortly. So I don't think there's any more questions. So I think we can log off a little early, and I hope everyone enjoys the sunshine. Thanks again for joining us, and thank you, Anne-Marie.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.